You can feel the sweat on your brow and curse that you'd put the suit on beforehand, preventing you from wiping it off. Okay, Chief, I'm heading into the airlock chamber. What's next? You'll see a similar panel on the opposite end of the hatch inside the chamber. Same deal, but in reverse. Makes sense? Okay. Once inside the airlock chamber, you spot an identical access panel and quickly get to work. Unfortunately, just as hard to close the hatch as it was to open it. Interior hatch is closed. Now what? You try to keep your breathing under control as the inside of your helmet begins to heat up, reminding you of another reason you've never been fond of them. What you're going to need to do next will be to vent the air in the chamber and then open the exterior hatch. To start with, the Chief walks you step by step through the process required. Although you remember most of this from training, you're thankful for the help as a few parts had slipped your mind. You carry on following the Chief's orders until, with one final monumental heave, you get the external hatch open. You step away from the lever and head over to the opening. Seeing the stars in front of you, rather than through a terminal or view screen, fills you with the familiar dread you'd felt on the bridge. Alright, Chief, I'm heading out. Pressing firmly on a switch on the suit's breast panel, you hear a momentarily high-pitched whine as the soles of the boots are drawn towards the airlock floor. With the electromagnets now active, each step is an effort. At least you know you won't go hurtling into space. You place one foot right on the edge of the airlock hatch and stare out into the emptiness. You see nothing but stars, with light years of gulf between them and you. With your next step, you head out into the nothingness, pivoting on the axis of your foot at the edge of the airlock. The step that you took into space brings your foot back down on the Gun-Dog's exterior hull. Even though the ship had fallen silent since its power had been knocked offline, that hadn't been true silence. There had been the echo of your footsteps, the almost inaudible sounds of things other crew members were doing in the far-off reaches of the ship. Out here, all you could hear was your own breathing and the whine of the magnets. You take a moment to orientate yourself and turn 90 degrees to act to your right, angling yourself towards the front of the ship. With a little difficulty, you bring one foot up and away from the hull and place it back down in front of you. Slowly but steadily, you make your way towards the hangar airlock. Still with us, Lieutenant Kraft? Haven't gone hurtling up into space or anything? You roll your eyes as you plod forwards. Still here, Lieutenant Lord. Good, very good. What's your ETA in the hangar airlock? You quickly do some rough maths around what you know about the Gun-Dog's dimensions. Airlock's around the midpoint of the ship, 250 meters along. About 5 minutes, Lieutenant? This isn't a Sunday afternoon stroll at the replica gardens, Kraft. Pick up the pace. You allow yourself the opportunity to curse openly at Vanessa before hitting the push-to-talk button again. Yes, ma'am. You carry on the laborious march to the hangar's crew airlock, slowly heaving 1 foot at a time away from the ship's hull before placing it back down in front of you. There are a few awkward areas where the ship's hull rises or falls, and you have to navigate your way across them. The loss of a constant bearing begins to disorient you, but you march onward, ensuring that you're heading consistently in a straight line regardless of orientation. Eventually, you see the distant markings that indicate an airlock hatch in the distance. Although it's marked in the same way as the one you'd emerged from, this one is much smaller, scarcely bigger than the typical doorway inside of the Gun-Dog. You enjoy a momentary celebration, then pick up the pace. Alright, Chief, I'm at the hangar crew airlock. Okay, if you look to the right of the door, you should see an access panel with a lever underneath, just like the others. Okay, let's see. Due to your orientation from standing on the ship's hull, the airlock entryway is laid out at your feet. You shift yourself to be able to look to the right and see the panel, which you head over to and squat in front of, running your fingers around its edges to find the now familiar recess. With a practiced movement, you undo the clip. Unlike the panels inside the ship that freely come away, this one swings on a hinge, revealing the lever underneath. Hopefully this should be easier on a smaller hatch. You mutter to yourself, reaching for the lever. Where's the lever? Chief. What is it? It's the lever. It's, You run your hand a few more times over the lever, which is visible, but inlaid into the hull, perfectly level with its surroundings. Whereas you'd been able to remove the panel cover by finding the recesses, there was nothing like that here, making grasping the lever impossible. I can't get any purchase on it. It's completely flush with the hull. There's no way to grip it. Chief? Lieutenant Lord, do you know what the current security code is? Of course I don't. Of course I don't. They're like the emergency input codes. Only the captain or the second in command knows them. Why? Chief Engineer Cathays, I ask you a question. There's a moment of radio static, but you can hear the chief sigh through the crackle and distortion. In order to gain entry into an airlock from outside, you need to input the ship's security code into the number pad. It's an analog locking mechanism, but you still need that code. Well? God damn it! God damn it, God damn it, God damn it, God damn you, miserable excuse for a captain, God damn you, Quinn, you absolute airheaded bitch! Hey, watch yourself, Lord! Oh, shut up, Kraft. Because of your stupid bimbo girlfriend deciding that now's a great time to take a nap, I'm stuck on a dead ship running out of air. Trying to herd you knuckleheads around on stupid pointless errands. Stow it! I'm not a big fan of this either, but right now, we're the best hope this ship's got. So if you could put a lid on the gigantic bitch act for 5 minutes and help us figure out how to solve this, we can... How dare you? I said stow it! 5 minutes, Lieutenant Lord. Then once I'm on board, I can handle the rest of it myself. Then you can go back to pretending you're the most important crew member. This is insubordination. I'll have... Alright, you two, that's enough! Both you and Vanessa snap into silence with the chief's interjection. Before either of you can start up again, she carries on in a commanding tone. Lieutenant Lord, you know how long the security code is. Do you know the punishment for addressing a senior officer like that? We are dying, Vanessa! We need just practicality right here. Forget formalities, we need to save this ship. No, ma'am, I do not, but if it gets Lieutenant Kraft on board any sooner, I'll say it's worth it. Do you know how long it is? It's 4 digits. Thank you. Now, do you have any idea? Of course I don't have any idea. It's Quinn's responsibility to generate and set those kinds of codes. Oh, by the way, if you ever want to access my quarters, the passcode for the lock is our anniversary. It's pretty much the same passcode I use for everything. I think I might know it. What? I said I think I might know it. It's... You rack your brain trying to remember the date where you and Cassie first visited the Europa amusement park. It was 0, 2, 1, 1. Right? Ha ha! You quickly punch in the 4-digit security code and then hit the enter key. As soon as you do, the lever rises out of its recess. And what do you do if you don't remember it? You're just like soft-locked at that point, aren't you? Ha ha! Yes! You've got it, Lieutenant? Yeah, it was 0211, in case that helps. And how do you know that was what the security code was? That is sensitive information. You don't want to tell Vanessa the reason you were able to guess the code, that it was yours and Cassie's anniversary, so instead you scramble for a lie. It's, the passcode for Lieutenant Commander Quinn's quarters. I just now realized that is an explanation which demands a further explanation. I can't believe it. These codes are supposed to be secure. How could she? For the time being, Lieutenant Lord, how about we just focus on the fact that I'm able to get into the hangar? Shifting your position away from the number pad, you squat down by the raised lever. Taking it in both hands, you find it much easier to crank than the ones on the main airlock, and in no time at all, the exterior hatch of the airlock is open. As you step inside the ship, you find yourself in a chamber almost identical to the airlock you'd left earlier, with the exception that it was much, much smaller. Moving quickly now, you close the exterior hatch behind you and follow the inverse process you'd carried out to leave the ship, pressurizing the chamber with oxygen and opening the internal hatch. In a few short minutes, you're back inside the familiar space of the ship's hangar, and you remove your helmet, happy to be breathing something other than the suit's oxygen supply. You then disengage the electromagnets before removing the suit completely, making sure to take the radio with you. Now unencumbered by its bulk, and in the low gravity of the hangar, you gently drift towards the equipment storage, the uneasy silence surrounding you. Let's call out, see if our engineering friend is here. I don't see Dalton anywhere. I wonder where he could be. Let's look around. Let's start with these. The armored frames are powered by an internal generator, so they're one of the few things on the ship that still work. Not much use, though, since they'd need to tear their way out of the hangar to get anywhere. What do we got here? Tools, equipment, and supplies. The portal subterminal that the chief mentioned should be in there somewhere. I guess I should get looking. Alright. Let's see. If that PST is going to be anywhere, it'll be amongst all the stood equipment and gear, so... In the darkness, the collection of stacked or suspended crates, containers, and various pieces of heavy machinery looms intimidatingly. Looking from container to container, you realize that none of them are marked in any way that makes any sense to the uninitiated. Shaking your head, you reach for the radio to ask the chief where you'd be able to find it. Before you can call her, you hear the rustle of a jumpsuit's fabric behind you, moments before a wavering voice demands, "Stop right there, intruder! Identify yourself!" Raise your hand slowly, being careful not to make any sudden movements. Dalton had done surprisingly well to get the drop on you, and if he was under the impression you were the enemy, he should be armed to confront you like this. "At ease, cadet. It's me, Lieutenant Kraft." Lieutenant, I'm sorry, I thought that..." Turning around slowly, hands still raised, you smile. "Don't worry about it. You did good to sneak up on me like that. If I was the enemy..." Pausing mid-sentence, you sigh as you realize that Dalton isn't actually holding a firearm. "Cadet, where's your weapon?" "Sir?" "If I had been the enemy, what were you planning on making me do without a weapon for encouragement?" Dalton pauses briefly, and you see realization flash in his eyes. Sorry, I didn't think that... Well, I thought that... Which is... Ease up, Dalton. When this is all sorted out, we'll go over anti-boarding procedures, okay? Yes, thank you, sir. Although, what exactly is going on, Lieutenant? I was just finishing up something when all the power went out. Haven't been able to get in touch with anyone. It takes you a few minutes, but you quickly fill Dalton in on the events taking place on board the ship, including your current objective of obtaining the portable subterminal. The emergency suit radios? Why didn't I think of that? Oh, the chief's going to be so mad. She was teaching me suit maintenance just last week. Oh. Hey, take it easy, cadets. No one else on the ship figured it out on their own either, so don't beat yourself up over it. I guess. So don't worry about that. What we need to do now is find the PST. Do you know where it's kept? I think so. Let me look. With a kick against the container next to him, Dalton propels himself towards a set of smaller crates. Once he arrives, you watch as he opens one, rummages through various bits of electronic adjacent-looking hardware, which he fastidiously replaces before closing the lid and moving on to the next one. It takes the cadet checking a few different storage crates before eventually he withdraws a device the size of a briefcase. With it firmly in hand, he slowly drifts back towards you, presenting it once back. Here we go, Lieutenant. This is what you're after. You got a portable subterminal. So this is the portable subterminal, huh? You take the hefty device from Dalton and turn it over a few times to investigate it from different angles. The exterior is largely one off-white plastic shell with a handle attached, allowing you to carry it like a briefcase. The one visible seam that runs around the entire casing has two conspicuous clasps that you release, causing part of the device to fold out, revealing a keyboard alongside various screens, buttons, disk drives, and withdrawable cables. Alright, Cadet, can you give me the quick rundown on how to use this? Yes, sir. I guess the entry to the thoroughfare would be a good place to try it out. Sounds better than going for another walk outside the ship. Let's go. The two of you make your way through the hangar and up the flights of stairs that lead to the foreside thoroughfare. Once at the top, you're faced with the unyielding set of double doors. Okay, sir. First you need to take the cable from the PST and connect it to the underside of the terminal next to whichever door you want to open. After that, you turn the device on. If you do that now, I'll show you the rest once it's active. Sounds good to me. Following Dalton's instructions, you kneel by the terminal and withdraw the cable from the device. It's awkward in the darkness, but you eventually connect the cable to a port on the bottom of the terminal. Once you've got the sub-terminal connected, you can use it the same way you would the normal terminal. Just select the right function from the menu and insert your keycard into the slot when it requests you to. Give it a try now. Alright, let's see. I should be able to use my own keycard on this. Using the small keyboard, you select the override open function, and then as Dalton advised, insert your keycard. As expected, although slightly slower than you'd like, the door opens, allowing access to the foreside thoroughfare. Great work, Cadet! All you need to do now is get this to the captain's quarters, then to engineering, and we'll have the Gun-Dog back up and running in no time. What's that look around? You okay there, cadets? Yeah, I just forgot that you had to go get those codes from the captain's quarters. Is that against the rules or insubordination or something? I thought it was forbidden to go into the captain's quarters unless explicitly instructed for duty. You saw as Dalton shakily removes the cable from the terminal underside and closes the lid of the PST. Technically, yes, but right now the choice is insubordination, or we all suffocate in the vacuum of space. But don't worry about it. I'm sure the captain will understand why I had to do it. Besides, I've always wanted to see what their quarters look like, so I'd say it's worth it, right? I guess. You place a hand on Dalton's shoulder and take the terminal from him. Anyway, you take it easy here. Try to raise the chief on the radio, see if she's got anything for you to do. I've got to get moving. Yes, sir. With that, you give Dalton a casual salute. In return, he throws a rigid, formal salute back at you. Smiling to yourself, you head through the now opened double doors and into the thoroughfare. Alright, well, this is pretty obvious. We go to the... Although, can we even access the captain's quarters without, like, a code or something? I don't think we could. I mean, worth a shot, I guess. Standing outside the captain's quarters, you look at the heavy device in your hand. It's taken longer than you'd like to get here, but at least now you could get those codes from the captain. Okay, so first I get the PST. Right. You kneel down by the terminal, to the side of the door, laying the PST on the ground, and unclipping the catches that hold the front of the unit closed. After it's started up, you swiftly draw out the cable and connect it to the terminal's underside. Squinting at the screen's phosphorescent glow in the low light, you scroll your way through a series of menus to select the unlock function. Once you hit enter on the command, a prompt shows up on the screen. Alright, now, I'll use Cassandra's because she might have better access. Once the device reads your keycard, you hear the soft whirs of the door unlocking and a hiss as it slowly opens. Okay, I can leave this here for the time being. You stand up and step in front of the door, which continues its painfully slow opening. Come on, come on, come on. Oh, this is nice. Captain, are you? Oh, that's... Ugh. As you step across the threshold into the dark of the captain's quarters, you're instantly overwhelmed by a powerful... Fetter? You gag and stumble your way back to the door, taking a deep breath of the corridor's sterile air. You try to compose yourself, but the odor drifts out around you, and a particularly acrid waft stings the back of your throat as you take another breath, causing you to gag again. Ugh! The atmosphere on ships and even the colonies are carefully regulated, and the air supply constantly scrubbed and recycled. Because of this, strong smells are something that are almost never encountered and quickly resolved. You realize that with the ship's life support out of action, this hasn't been happening, and whatever is causing the stench in the captain's quarters has been left to putrefy the air into this awful miasma. After a few more retches, you steel yourself to re-enter the room. Before heading in, you bring your arm up in front of your mouth and nose to do the best to bear the stink. Although you're doing your best to breathe as lightly as possible, the odor still assaults you almost too much to bear. Captain, are you... are you in here, Captain? With no answer, you carry on deeper into the quarters. As you grow accustomed to the smell, you begin to pick up the unique odors that it's comprised of. The first scent that you identify brings back memories of your early flight training, the acidic tang of vomit. The second takes you a little longer, sour and chemical. You wonder for a moment if it's one of the substances they use to strip paintwork from ships or armored frames. But then you spy an empty bottle on the desk and realize what it is. Stale whiskey. Sick, huh? With the cause of the captain's absence now obvious, you look around the room. To the left is another closed door. To the right, you see an open doorway and what looks like the end of the bed. Captain! You call out again as you head towards it. Although your reason for being here is entirely justifiable, you still feel a bit hesitant about barging in. Captain! Nothing. Alright, Captain, I'm coming in. We need those. Having stepped through the doorway, you find yourself in a room that's much closer to a normal bedroom than the crew quarters. Rather than access panels with flush with walls for storage, the room has actual furniture, a chest of drawers, sits below a large mirror, and a bedside table is right next to an unmade queen-size bed. For a moment, you think that, like Cassie is wont to do, the captain has just thrown her worn uniform onto the bed and left it all in a heap. But before you turn back, a sluggish movement as the mass of crumpled clothing turns over reveals it to be Captain Bartimeus herself. Oh, Captain! You throw a salute and hold it for a moment before you realize that the captain is completely oblivious to your presence. Tentatively making your way towards the captain's bedside, you register that the smell of stale whiskey is strongest in her immediate vicinity. And getting drunk on the jog? Especially when we were going to be making contact? As you look around, you notice another bottle lies mostly empty with a small pool of amber liquid left in one of its corners. Captain. You run your hands back through your hair and sigh loudly. Regardless of all this, you remind yourself you're here to get the emergency input codes. Captain! Hey, Captain Bartimeus! You place your palm on the captain's upper arm and rock her gently. Captain! Come on, you need to wake up! We need your emergency input code! Captain, wake up! Captain! Captain! You step back and pinch the bridge of your nose with your thumb and forefinger. Despite everything, it doesn't seem the captain will be waking up from this stupor anytime soon. Come on, after everything. I can't get the codes from the captain directly. Maybe she keeps a couple of them around here or something. Worth a shot. Okay, let's look around. The captain's got an actual bedroom. I wonder if this is an... It's an actual bathroom, alright, but now I know where the smell of vomit is coming from. What was I expecting to find there anyway? An empty bottle of whiskey, aside from a few leftover drops. Europa Colony Special Blend. Huh. Pretty nice desk. It must be where the captain does all of her work when she's not on the bridge. If that's the case, as I thought, it's got a few drawers at the back next to where she'd sit. If those are anywhere, they'd be in here. A painting of the first colony fleet to enter Jupiter's orbit. If I remember my civics lessons, they were funded by a wealthy Terran industrialist who had them built to serve as habitats for a workforce that would harvest resources from Jupiter and her moons, for his company's sake. After a few decades, the population had enough of existing with no autonomy and living on company scrip, so they took control of the fleet and petitioned to join the Solar Federation. We all know how that ended. The captain's bedroom. It's actually pretty nice. This is the first time I've seen a captain's quarters, so I didn't know they were this different. Privilege of rank, I guess. Alright, let's take a look here. I know I've seen Cassie hand the captain printed reports and status updates. Maybe she's still got a copy of those codes in here? You try to open the top drawer, but the small amount of initial give stops almost immediately as you hear a clunk. You try a few more times and spot a keyhole to the left of the drawer. Checking the second and third drawers gives the same result. They're locked? Locked, of course. I'll have to find the key. Where could the key be? In the bedroom? You're uncomfortable enough making your way in here in the first place, but now that you're about to rummage your way through the captain's personal effects, you feel even worse. Let's get this over with. Doing a quick scan of the room in hopes that the captain may have left the key on top of the chest of drawers, or her bedside table, proves fruitless, so you tentatively step back inside. Nervously looking back to the captain's comatose form every few moments. Sorry about this, Captain. Standing by the chest of drawers, you lay your hand on its top and drum your fingers before nervously pulling the top one open. Seeing only folded clothing inside, you closed it quickly, going on to repeat this process for the next 2 drawers, finding nothing. Stepping back, you take another look around. The only immediately obvious place left to check is the drawer in the bedside table, right? Next to the captain. Move over to it, you squat down beside the unit, acutely aware of the captain sleeping right next to you. In the low light, it's next to impossible for you to make out the contents of the drawer, so you have to settle for reaching inside and feeling your way through. Running your fingers over the various contents, you try to figure out what's in there. A thin plastic surface with regular bumps, which feels like it has a foil underside. A small glass bottle with a series of raised dots just under the label, various individual papers. Aha! You grab hold of what feels like a key card, clipped onto a lanyard, and pulled out of the drawer. The metallic jangling sound that comes with it is quickly revealed to be a key ring featuring various different keys. One of these has got to be the key for those. Captain? Captain, hey! I don't even need to go rummaging anymore, now do I? I'll just ask you. Hey, good to see you here. Well, Lieutenant. You freeze in place with your hand half out of the drawer, holding onto the captain's identity card and keys. You hadn't seen her stir, but in the blink of an eye, Captain Bartimeus had managed to reach out and grab a hold of your wrist. I'm just following orders, or explain yourself. Let's not be... I don't think we need an explanation. I'll calmly explain what's going on. And she's probably going to be really hungover, but... we'll see. The captain... like, if you shout and you're like, oh, it's just a... you make yourself seem suspicious, then you're going to be suspicious. Much better to just calmly explain, Captain, I'm here because the ship is... all systems are not working. We needed access to your codes to get things back up and running, and therefore, I came in here. If you can help us get things back online, that would be great. The captain's grip on your wrist isn't particularly strong, but the shock has rendered you perfectly still. You slowly turn your head to face her, and see her lazily gazing at you through the darkness. Lieutenant? You hold on to your breath for a moment, then exhale slowly, calming yourself. What are you... Composing yourself, you speak calmly and quietly. I'm sorry, Captain. It's an emergency, and I've come to get your input codes. An emergency? All the ship's systems have gone offline. Commander Quinn has collapsed. I've been working with Chief Cathays and Lieutenant Lord to get your codes so that we can get the ship back online. The captain blinks groggily a few times and releases your wrist, drawing her hand back to rub her eyes. As she does, you slowly take the keys from the bedside drawer and stand. That's why I'm here. I thought the codes might be in your desk drawer, but I need the key. Although you're doing your best to maintain your tone and demeanor on the inside, your heart is racing as you consider the possibility of being given a court-martial here and now. Sounds important. Well, yes, ma'am. I'd say we all consider it pretty crucial right now. The captain continues to gaze at you as you stand to attention in the darkness. After a moment in which you think she may have fallen back to sleep, she rolls onto her back and brings her hand to her forehead. A printout with the latest access codes it's in the second drawer. You breathe a sigh of relief as the captain rolls to face away from you. Just don't read the reports. Ma'am? Wait for a few moments, but eventually a gentle snore emerges from the crumpled heap that is Captain Bartimeus, And you relax. Second drawer. Thanks, Captain. You got the captain's key ring. We're totally reading the reports, though. Alright, let's see which one. You spent a few moments working your way through the selection of keys that hang from the ring on the end of the captain's lanyard. You're able to discount a few based on their unusual shapes, but finding the right one is still a tricky task in the dark. Eventually you find one that slides easily into the lock and turns the mechanism, which lets out a surprisingly hefty clunk. The captain said the codes are in the second drawer, so you open that drawer first and purposely leaf through the collections of papers, reports, and files that it contains. Crew manifests, security updates. Aha! You see the telltale tractor feed edges of the printer paper that you've seen Cassie produce updates and reports for the captain on, sticking out from underneath a manila folder. As you lift the paper out of the drawer, the folder on top begins to spill its contents. You quickly grab it to stop everything from falling out, and as you do, you can't help but read its title. JCF, Naval Investigatory Commission Findings. Incident 00784, 2109-0209. Subject, Rear Admiral M. Bartimeus. With what you believe to be the printout that would contain the codes in one hand and this report in the other, you look back towards the captain's bedroom as you remember her instructions. Just don't read the reports. You hesitate for a moment, rereading the title. Rear Admiral? We are in a dire situation. I don't think being in the dark on any facts is going to help us. We're going to read the report. You stare at the cover of the report for a few moments before looking back to the printouts, and then to the captain's bedroom. Placing the printout back in the drawer, you open the folder and begin to leaf your way through its contents. You skim the first few pages, which outline the investigation's intention, to assess the actions taken by Rear Admiral M. Bartimeus in the battle in lunar orbits. Following on from that are a series of diagrams and charts that you recognize to be ship movements sorted by time, followed by annotated or captioned stills taken from ship or armored frame-based recording devices. As you work your way through them, you see what they're being used to illustrate. A squadron of JCF ships pulls away from the main fleet and is eventually intercepted and then decimated by the enemy. The final photographs show the few remaining ships returning to the fleet in a state of disarray, with all of them suffering extensive damage. As you move past the pictures and diagrams, you flick through pages that outline a breakdown of the losses, ships, armored frames, pages and pages of crew member names. Eventually you get to the last few pages of the report where you skim through the conclusion. This inquiry finds that by leaving the defensive position for an unsanctioned offensive, thereby opening a point of access through the E-field, Rear Admiral Marius Bartimeus, significant loss to armored frame groups. Wait, E-field? She got my comrades killed. This is Galaxy 6. They've got off flight path. There's more. There's a whole squadron of carriers coming in from E-field. Calic 1. They're going to get you off from the fleet. Calic 6, respond. Calic 6, what's going on? How many carriers are coming in from E-field? You stop and lay the report on the captain's desk, staring at it, rereading the conclusion again and again. Adversely impacted flights included Thebe flight, Carm flight, Carpo flight, Gallic flight. You close the report and place it back into the drawer. Almost mechanically, you reach for the printout you'd been handling a few moments before, and methodically scan through it until you see what you're after. Classified core system access codes. Generation date, 2004-0214. For captain and second only. You slowly rip the relevant page from the rest of the document at its perforated edges, and fold it up and slide it into your pocket. After this, you methodically place the rest of the paper back into the drawer, which you slide closed. You got the access codes. With the codes in your possession, you calmly make your way back towards the corridor outside of the captain's quarters, where you've left the PST. As you approach the doorway, you absentmindedly take hold of the radio and push down the transmission button. Okay, Chief, Lieutenant Lord, I've got the codes. Release the push-to-talk button and wait. You give it a moment, but instead of more instructions from the Chief, or some kind of backhanded congratulations from Lieutenant Lord, all you hear is with a powerful hiss of static. Chief? You try again. Lieutenant Lord! Still nothing. Anyone, come on! You give the radio a shake and spend a few moments adjusting the frequency dials. Oh, hey, November Joy! And Rating Party, welcome to the stream. Glad to see you all with us. We're just here playing just like a point-and-click adventure game type of thing. I'm on a derelict spaceship, trying to get things started back up. What are we all doing? As for a moment, you feel like throwing the radio down the corridor, but instead you slump against the nearest wall and hold your head in one hand. Slouching against the wall in the low light for a moment longer, you sigh loudly before turning and kneeling down by the PST, which you begin to pack back up. You've got the codes, you just can't get them to the Chief over the radio. The next best thing you decide is to get them to her in person. B3313. I'm not familiar with that game. What's it like? You clip the latches on the PST closed and pick it up as you stand turning to make your way through the darkness towards the four-side thoroughfare. Okay. Let's get a move on. To the thoroughfare. That gets us to the central hub, and then from there, thoroughfare. We should be able to open this door now, I hope. Outside of the huge blast door that separates the aft thoroughfare from the engineering department, you begin the increasingly familiar process of unpacking the PST. Alright, I set up the PST. Alright, so let's get that going. First withdrawing the cable, then plugging it into the terminal near the door, you boot up the device and begin cycling through the options. Okay, and then I need a key card. We'll do Cassandra's because she's got more access than me. Captain's actually probably have even more than Cassandra's, so I might use that in the future. With the device set up, you hit the enter key on the unlock option and turn your attention towards the partition that stands between you and the engineering department. Unlike the other doors, the PST's battery power had been used to open. This blast door is inches thick and comprised almost entirely of solid steel. You watch tentatively as a low grinding sound emanates from the ceiling for about 10 seconds before the door even begins to move. Like the others, the opening process is agonizingly slow. In the darkness of the thoroughfare, time seems to lose all meaning as you watch the door almost imperceptibly work its way upwards. After a few minutes, the barely noticeable progress comes to a halt, and the low grinding sound stops, with the blast door giving you just over a foot of clearance between it and the floor. Well, that's enough to crawl through, but I guess our door opening machine might be out of power? Turning your attention back to the PST, you see a graphic of an empty battery with a cross through it blinking on the screen. Oh no. Knowing that the blast door is being kept open by the device's dwindling battery power, you drop to the floor and, grabbing the PST, begin to crawl forward into engineering. There's just enough clearance for you to worm your way underneath, but the smooth panel floor turning to grating makes it an uncomfortable experience. By the time you make it halfway through, with your feet still sticking out the aft thoroughfare, the grinding noise that had stopped with the door starts back up again. No. You shove the PST ahead of you through the small gap, being mindful to not yank out the cable plugged into the underside of the terminal. Yeah, makes sense you haven't heard of this game before. It just came out today, so. So far it's been pretty cool. Ignoring the grating now, you quickly squirm the rest of the way until you're clear of the door. Then rolling onto your back, you grab the PST's cable and give it a swift tug, pulling it out of the terminal on the other side and back to you just before the blast door drops shut. That was way too close. You stand up, then quickly pick up the PST, which still has the low battery warning blinking on its screen. Right, you can't let this completely run out, because we might need it to get into the computer room. Chief! Your call is met with the oppressive silence that somehow seems worse in the vast space of the engineering department. Where could she be? Chief, it's me, Lieutenant Kraft. I've got the PST. Chief! Making your way past various system terminals, stations, and machinery, you continue to call out to the chief, but there's no response. Where the hell could she be? As you continue your way deeper into engineering, you grab the radio. Chief! Just like the last time you tried, no one answers, and all you hear is static. Chief! You dart down different catwalks trying to find the chief, your mind racing as to where she could be. Chief! With the low battery warning illuminating your face in increasingly small intervals with its constant flashing, you stop. Looking down at the PST screen, you make a decision. Well, done everything else myself. Turning back from the main section of engineering, you make a beeline over to the room that holds the central computer. Your footsteps on the grating echo throughout the silence. I may as well finish things. As you begin to run, the PST starts to beep and the battery symbol flashes even more rapidly. If you're running out of battery, then don't use what you've got left flashing and beeping. Yeah, that is something that actually kind of annoys me about a lot of things. Where there are, like, a smoke detector is actually a really good example. Where it's like, okay, it's like low on battery, so you use your remaining battery to just beep at me constantly. I swear, probably the last like 10% of a smoke detector's battery is probably gone through way quicker than the rest because like it wastes all that energy on beeping. And granted with that, like, you kind of need some sort of notification, but there are other things where it's like, okay, I get that the battery is low. Just, like, I'll get around to it. Quit bothering me. Running at full pelt now towards the central computer, you reach it just as the PST's whole screen begins to blink, cycling between showing the warning and nothing at all. Once you arrive at the doorway that leads to the central computer, you know what you've got to do. Alright. I know what I've got to do. Right, okay, there we go. Wasting no time, you withdraw the cable and hurriedly plug it into the terminal with one hand whilst scrolling through options with the other. Come on, hang in there. Come on, almost there. Okay, we get the captain's key ring. One needs to unlock the captain's desk. Okay, well, those are just normal keys. Okay, give me Cassandra's key card. That should work. And now, there. As soon as the door begins to open, you jump to it and start pushing on it in order to force it open. Once you've made the gap large enough, you slip through the exact same amount as you hear the PST power down and the door slides back shut. It takes a moment, but your eyes adjust to the darkness of the room. Looking around, you see that it is a little bigger than a cleaning cupboard or a crew member's shower cubicle. Masses of thick cabling run from the ceiling and floor along the walls towards the end of the room opposite the doorway. On the far side is a huge screen with a keyboard positioned below it, at about waist height. Stepping towards the interface, you run your hand over the keys. The computer shows no signs of life, even after you begin to push random buttons. Simply mashing the keyboard doesn't produce any response, so instead you begin to feel your way over its casing in the darkness, trying to find what might be a power button. Eventually you find a rocker switch set to the side of the device. You flick it to the alternate position once, but nothing happens. With no other options, you flick it back to the position it was in. This time, the screen illuminates and you hear electronics coming to life. Okay, alright, we're in business. As a hard drive somewhere beyond the screen begins to whir loudly, the screen transitions from its boot screen to a password input screen. Okay, we've got the codes. After everything you've been through, you're now one input away from getting the ship back online. Finally, alright. Alright, let's use those codes. And enter. With a final flourish, you strike the return key. An immense feeling of satisfaction fills you as you watch the computer work its way through the startup process. Names of systems show up and are followed by their status, changing from offline to active. A faint draft runs down your neck, which you take to mean life support and ventilation is back online. Alright, hold on, Cassie, What? What's going on? Why is the computer acting so weird? Wait, what? No, come on! You're hit with a gut punch of panic as the visuals on the screen begin to warp. Fragments of text scatter and lines of code split and distort, whilst a strange noise squeals from the machinery. Don't do this. Unsure of what's going on, but beginning to think that it is your fault, you look over the keyboard again, repeatedly striking any key that seems like it may stop this process. End, escape, pause. No. What's going on with this? I'm not like a tech guy, so I don't know what to do here. Come on! What? What's going on? Why is it giving us a bunch of profiles? As suddenly as it started, the computer's erratic activity ceases with the only document left on screen, Cassie's personnel file. Cassie's file? Wait, why? You pause, unsure whether you should do anything or leave it as is. You can tell from the ambient noise that has returned that the ship is back online, but why would the computer freak out like this? Why would it pull up Cassie's file? No! What's going on here? Doing your best to understand what you just saw, you tentatively reach a hand out towards the keyboard. You're still unsure of what you could do to find out what just happened, but can't help but feel like whatever it was wasn't right. Craft, I need you up on the bridge right now! You withdraw your hand, instead grabbing the radio to answer Lieutenant Lord. Alright, I'm on my way back up now. How's Lieutenant Quinn doing? There's no time for her. Get up here now. You curse under your breath as you turn to leave the room. You've learned now that if Lieutenant Lord doesn't intend to be helpful, she won't be. Rather than attempt to argue, you make your way through the ship back towards the bridge. Well, at least the lights are back on. As the elevator doors hiss open, you step onto the bridge. You see Lieutenant Lord frenziedly flicking switches and turning dials on an instrument panel, stopping every so often to type commands into her station. Cassie, meanwhile, remains unconscious on the bridge floor. I'm here, Lieutenant. What else is wrong now? You hurry over to Cassie and kneel down, sliding your hands under her back and legs in preparation to pick her up and take her to the newly accessible sickbay. It's the O'Brien. What of it? With a single movement, you stand and bring Cassandra up from the floor. What about it? It's gone. Gone? Just straight up vanished? I mean, it's space. We should have line of sight on it somewhere, right? Have you looked hard? April 23rd, Planetary Calendar 214. Despite the successful reactivation of the JFS Gun-Dog central computer by Lieutenant Craft, the JFS O'Brien could not be contacted and was no longer coming up on sensors. After taking Lieutenant Commander Quinn to the sickbay, Lieutenant Craft, alongside Cadet Grange, are tasked with sweeping the ship for faults or damage, whilst Lieutenant Lord sets Chief Cathays to work, helping her locate the other ship. The JFS O'Brien is eventually located, just as Captain Bartomuse calls an emergency meeting. Outer Jovian space. The bridge of the Jovian patrol ship JFS Gun-Dog.